The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios.
Hi, this is Mia Mosinzia, also known as Mia No Time for Love. Check out my latest book, Missing, available in print and ebook formats on Amazon.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios and sponsored by international award-winning author Mia Mosinzia of Missing. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on over 40 podcast platforms, as well as HamiltonRadio.net, Diamonds FM, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. We can be heard in over 100 countries, featuring over 1,000 well-known and amazing guests throughout the globe. And named one of the top 100 global podcasts in the New York Weekly Times, Hollywood Entertainment News, Los Angeles Weekly Times, Apple, and Chartable. So sit back and relax and enjoy another great episode of the award-winning Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by SoundCloud Studios. Visit online at soundcloudstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. SoundCloud Studios is the answer. SoundCloud Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@soundcloudstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give an official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Mosinzia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Mosinzia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those you love will be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Mosinzia has garnered great reviews and even loved and endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today. 4 Goes Missing by Mia Mosinzia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com with over 40 podcast platforms heard in over 100 countries, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, Apple Music. Also on HamiltonRadio.net, Oldies FM, Diamonds Radio, and a few networks coming soon. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies, baseball gear, and more. Makes great gifts for your family, friends, and loved ones 24/7. Go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Mosinzia for great books, merchandise, and more like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also t-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, phone cases, and more. Amazon.com/Mia Mosinzia. Check it out today. I'll support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, themikewagnershow.com. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com at the Mike Wagner Show. Make sure you do so today. We're here with the terrific, multi-talented UK singer, songwriter, musician, radio presenter, and a music promoter from Bristol, England with us today. He was one of the members of Iron Maiden, also keyboardist for Cutting Crew, best known for I Died in Your Arms Tonight, and more as well. He also founded the Kashmir Club to showcase live music in London. We'll talk about that. He was involved with a song for Europe, Perfect and Beautiful, also formed with Brian Jones, and also worked with tanzderyouth, and also opened for the Stranglers, Black Sabbath, and the forefront of New Wave movement. And he was also overnight host of BBC London back in 2004 and host of Let's Talk Music in Malta in 2008. And he also had some music out there like Route 66, Save the Day, Maiden 77. And he's got a new song that will make your heart sing. Live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studios in beautiful downtown London as well, too, part of the UK, the multi-talented singer, songwriter, musician, radio presenter, music promoter from Bristol, England, ladies and gentlemen, the multi-talented Tony Moore. Tony, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Mike. It's a great pleasure to be here and part of your fabulous show. And what an introduction. My goodness, you wore me out just listening to all the things you've listed that I've done. I've forgotten half of those.
Really? You know something? I was going to give you a quiz on that, but I'll let you pass on this one. So I'll give you a break on that. Oh, my gosh. And, of course, you got one of your songs that's on YouTube as well, too. Let Your Heart Begin to Sing. Talk about
Yes.
that. You also had Route 66, Save the Day, Maiden 77, and more. You're from Bristol, England. You're a UK singer, songwriter, musician, radio presenter, also music promoter, and you played with Iron Maiden and keyboardist for Cutting Crew with I Die in Your Arms Tonight and many more. You founded the Kashmir Club to showcase live music in London. You also were involved with the Song for Europe, also Perfect and Beautiful. You also formed and played with Brian Jones and also tanzderyouth, and also opened for the Stranglers, Black Sabbath, and forefront of the New Wave movement. You've been overnight host of BBC London in 2004 and host of the Let's Talk Music in Malta in 2008. I mean, you just have such multi-talented out there, I guess. Where we begin and what projects do you have? But before we get into all that, Tony, tell us how you first got started.
Well, I think like everybody, when you're a kid, you come across things in your life that strike a chord, pun intended. So for some kids, it's sports. They at a young age, they're either great athletes or they're great swimmers, or they develop a skill in playing soccer, as we call it, or whatever. None of those things really interested me as a kid. Maybe because my dad was a classical tenor and a pianist, and my mum was a ballet dancer. So I grew up in a very creative, eclectic, artistic environment. I was listening to music all the time. And they did send me to piano lessons, and I did rebel because I couldn't read music, and it really frustrated me. So I started writing music because first of all, I started memorizing the pieces that I was meant to learn. I get my dad to play them, and I'd play them back by ear. And after a little while, the piano teacher would soon suss that out and go, "Yeah, you're not really reading this, are you?" I go, "I just memorized it." But I realized that if I was writing my own music, nobody could say it was wrong. So at a very young age, I just started writing music. And as I know, you're a big Genesis fan. And I'm guessing, like most people, you're probably a Beatles fan. You might be a Stones fan instead. I don't know, but you're probably a Beatles fan.
Beatles fan, definitely. And Stones came along the way, but I think the Beatles were also an inspiration. And going back to American roots, you also had Elvis Presley, Willie Nelson, a few others. And we had an eclectic household as well, too, with records just sprawled all over the place.
Right.
You had, like tiptoe and everything. And if a record broke, you always blame the dog or cat. So.
Well, similarly, there was lots of Beatles music in the house. My mum loved the Beatles, so that was part of the soundtrack to my youth in the 60s. But I think seeing Peter Gabriel with Genesis in 1973, 72, 73, doing the Foxtrot tour.
Yeah, I think it's around 72, and then Selling England by the Pound was 73. Yeah, that was it.
That was like a magical experience. And also I got to see David Bowie doing Ziggy Stardust.
Nice.
And I was in the second row of the Bristol Colston Hall, which was the venue. And it was that was kind of life-changing in that I'd never realized that a performer could stand on stage making music, but also make us feel and think and experience something that we'd never thought of before. And so I grew up writing music that was heavily inspired by the Beatles and by progressive rock to some degree, by Bowie, a lot of the glam stuff. Alice Cooper, I used to love.
Yes, Alice Cooper.
$1 Billion Babies was one of my favorite albums for a long time. So that was kind of the genesis of my musical career, was having all of these influences and writing songs. And then I formed a band at school. And we started doing gigs, and I remember the first gig I did, and we got some applause. It was like, I guess it would, be like a drug, really. I just heard it and I felt so amazing. I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to be on a stage, making music, entertaining people and having fun.
Wow. Was that the one precise moment that simply influenced you into doing the rest of your career?
Well, we were going to do more gigs. We were already a band, but that first gig kind of cemented this idea that actually there wasn't anything else I wanted to do. And at school, when I was kind of 13, 14, 15, and you talked to the careers teacher there, or the careers master, and there were no rock and roll options. Nowadays in the UK, and I think in a lot of America, music is an educational opportunity, is an option now. So you can go to Berkeley, or you could go to MIT, or you can go to these different places across America and in the UK, where you can study rock guitar and rock history and production and all these kinds of things that you could never have done when I was at school. So my options, the closest thing that I thought I might be interested in, and I was just saying it to keep him happy, was architecture, because it felt a bit creative, right? So I said, well, maybe I could be an architect, but I knew really I had to be a musician, had to be more than that, an entertainer, because I was doing magic at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And I was a magician's apprentice. I'd found this magician when I was a kid, started working for him, learning. And actually, for a little while, as I was 15 or 16, I was earning quite good money when everyone else was still at school, selling magic and doing magic demonstrations. And when I first got my passport, the UK passports back in those days, you had to list your occupation. So I put my occupation as entertainer. Because that's what I realized what I wanted to be, and I was going to be. So
wow, that was interesting. You talked about magic as well too, and performing magic tricks. Who are some of your favorite magicians growing up?
Well, when I was growing up, I think Doug Henning, who was a Canadian magician who revolutionized magic at the time. I think he went to university in one of the major cities, maybe Toronto or Vancouver, maybe Toronto. And he said, I want to get a degree in magic. I want to study magic. And they said, we don't have a curriculum for that, but we are prepared to give you, the time that we will give you as a student. And at the end of it, you must present a show, and we will judge the show as to whether we think you've earned your degree in magic, as it were. So he did. He created a thing called The Magic Show, which then went on to run on Broadway for years afterwards.
Wow.
So he was one of my first big heroes. A lot of my other heroes were all dead at that point. People like Houdini, who was a massive influence on me. And there wasn't a lot of literature about him at the time. In the last 15, 20 years, there have been quite a few books written that I've devoured and I've been very interested in. But what I loved about Houdini was not only the fact that he seemed to be able to do many different things. So he wasn't just an illusionist. He was a personality, but he was a man of his times. And I don't think Houdini would be able to do what he does now and have the same effect. He existed in the perfect time for him to be Houdini, right? So those were my biggest influences.
I also thought of David Copperfield as well too, and there was another modern one which I'm trying to think of his name, and it's it's
Lance Burton.
What's that?
Lance Burton. He's a big Vegas magician.
It might be, but I'm trying to think. It'll probably come to me in just a minute as well too. And we'll talk about your experience with actually before we get to that, we talked about you with Genesis, Beatles, the Stones, and everything. Who are some of your other favorite artists, singers, and musicians growing up?
Well, Pink Floyd was a big influence for me. Supertramp, I loved. Pretty much everything in the 70s. There was the 70s was great for many things. Great films, the films of the 70s, things like The French Connection and
I remember that.
Right, that these were quite gritty, they weren't very Hollywood. They didn't always have happy endings, right? But they were great movies at the time. And quite disturbing. The Exorcist at its time was a very, very spooky movie.
It was rather bloody too. Nowadays, It's like PG or something, or close to rated G nowadays. Oh my gosh.
Or things like Jaws, right? So within the world of
a shark movie,
right? You had quite innovative filmmaking. Within music, you had artists developing so quickly. Elton John was a massive, massive influence, and his skyrocketing career from kind of quiet singer-songwriter to the glamorous leader of the sparkly glam rock team was something that I like colorful people. I like colorful artists. Who else did I really like? I wasn't quite that into the heavier rock stuff when I was younger. So I wasn't into Zeppelin. It wasn't until later that I realized quite how groundbreaking and amazing they were. But for me, it was about melody. So I preferred, Genesis or Yes or Pink Floyd, the stuff that was more structured and more melodic for me.
Mm-hmm. And it's the ones that go like about 10, 20 minutes. You can just veg out. Emerson, Lake and Palmer. That's also another one as well, too. I just get involved and it's like, 10, 20 minutes. And everybody talks about Iron Butterfly as well, too. And, and of course, going from Genesis to Led Zeppelin, we'll talk about your involvement with Iron Maiden, also Cutting Crew and more. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those you love will be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews and even loved and endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassie, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today. Virgo's Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com on over 40 podcast platforms, heard in over 100 countries. Take us with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia for great books, merchandise, and more. I'll support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, themikewagnershow.com. Make sure you give generously today. We're here with the multi-talented singer-songwriter from Bristol, England, musician, radio presenter, music promoter, Tony Moore here on the Mike Wagner Show. And before we talk about some of your latest music as well, you've been involved with Iron Maiden, also Cutting Crew, and also a song for Europe, Perfect and Beautiful, tanzderyouth, and more. Tell us about how you got involved with Iron Maiden.
Well, that was my first jump from being a kid in Bristol with a band that I formed at school, doing local gigs. And I guess it was 1977. So I was 17, 18 nearly. And I realized that like all countries, there are a few cities, usually the capital cities, where the music and the entertainment industry resides. And if you're going to do something in life, you need to go there and be part of it. So obviously in America, it's a big country. You might choose New York or LA, possibly Nashville or Atlanta, but there's a few key centers. And the same in the UK, it's London, really. Even though, the Beatles came from Liverpool, they used to drive overnight in a funny little van to get to meetings in London. And when the roads were really bad.
Oh my gosh, I bet.
Yeah, so London was the draw. So I answered an advert in a music magazine. The magazine was called Melody Maker. Mm-hmm. And in those days, this was before, obviously, any technological achievements that we have now. So there was no internet, no mobile phones, nothing like that. Mm-hmm. So this magazine or this newspaper was a little bit like the internet in paper format, because you could search for musicians, you could buy or sell equipment, you could see gig listings, you could there was personal ads, and I saw this big advert in it, and the advert actually said, I've got a copy of it somewhere, because the great thing about the internet, of course, is that nothing is lost, right? So over the years,
ain't that true?
all these great Iron Maiden fans have tracked down these tiny bits of memorabilia that are part of that historic journey. So, but I believe it said something like rock band Iron Maiden or Iron Maiden rock band looking for drummer and keyboard synth player no idiots, right? And then a phone number.
Who was an idiot then?
Well,
or now I should say.
I'm guessing that there was, maybe a lot of idiots out there in those days that wasted people's time. But it seemed to me I had some keyboards, I had a synth. So I phoned the number, organized to come up and meet and audition for the band. They weren't famous at this point. So I put all my equipment in the back of my car. I drove to London, no sat nav, no GPS. I had to navigate myself across this massive city with what we call an A to Z. It's like an atlas in a book, like a paperback book, and trying to work out which road I'm on. And
I remember those days. Yeah, and it's like I can't see.
So I drove to the East End of London to a place called Scarf Studios, which was the rehearsal studio setup that they used to use. Met the guys, set my equipment up, and we made music for an hour or so. Obviously, all songs they'd already written and they played, and I was trying to find my way in as a keyboard player. And then they took a break. They all went outside, and then they came back in about 10 minutes later after having a chat. They said, "Right, gig's yours. Do you want it?" And I went, "Yes, please." So I actually found out many years later, talking to one of them, I was the only keyboard player that answered the ad.
Really? The only one? And it wasn't Bruce Dickinson. I'm kidding.
Oh, no. Well, I'm not sure that he plays keyboards. Of course, he was the singer later on. But, being a keyboard player is always, you're in the minority, partly because you need to have keyboards, right? And they're expensive and complicated to carry around. When you're a kid, learning the guitar is much easier, right? You can stick it on your back and you can go anywhere. So I think more young kids in music chose to play guitar or bass guitar just because it was easier. Drummers and keyboard players, well, both have the same challenge of carrying equipment, and arguably keyboards to get what you really need sounding good and getting a selection of different things back then was expensive, right? So anyway, I was the only one. I got the job and I moved to London. That was my excuse to move to London. And I got a part-time job in a department store in the center of London for a little while just to pay my rent. And we rehearsed every night, pretty much, going through the songs and just, kind of being a band.
That's really interesting too. And of course, Steve Harris had been running a whole show too. And, I come from the type where it's like I was accustomed to Bruce Dickinson and everything else. And I'll tell you some of my Iron Maiden stories, later on as well too. Of course, moving on from Iron Maiden, then over to Cutting Crew. And you're on the first album, especially I Died in Your Arms Tonight.
Yeah.
And my personal... Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's a 10-year jump though.
Oh, 10-year jump. Okay.
Yeah, because 1977, I was in Iron Maiden. And Cutting Crew was 86, 87, right? So that was 9-10 years later. So there was quite a lot happened in between, but by 87, I left Iron Maiden before they got their first record deal, and it was amicable. It didn't seem like the right fit, keyboards in Iron Maiden. And as we look back in retrospect, I think everybody would agree that Iron Maiden, with the dual lead guitar and now the 3 lead guitars, is the definitive sound of Iron Maiden. And with later albums, they did add keyboards in the recording process. But I think early days, keyboard player wasn't the right fit. And it seemed obvious for both of us, which is why I went off and worked with Brian James and we did the tanzderyouth thing. So it wasn't until, quite a lot of water was under the bridge that I was touring America with Cutting Crew, and we had a #1 hit with I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight. So, but magical days.
Very magical days too. And I seem to enjoy as well too. I've been in love before. I mean, that just really stood out for me with the Crew too. That was they were just amazing back in the day too. You wish they kind of went longer though.
Yeah, well, it is a shame, a great shame. The Being in Love Before is such a beautiful song. And, that and Died in Your Arms were both written by Nick Van Eede, the singer. Fantastic songs, fantastic singer. But there was one of the big challenges I think that the band had is that Died in Your Arms just seemed to overshadow everything. So even though there was lots and lots of people who loved I've Been in Love Before, and it did get quite a lot of airplay, people still kept going back to Died in Your Arms, as they still do now, right? It's still played all the time.
I'm guilty of it.
But There's there wasn't much footage of the band, right? It was a strange time because it happened all quite quickly and not a lot of footage was captured, but there's on the internet, there's some great footage of us playing on the Johnny Carson show in 1987.
I remember Johnny Carson. Yes, I love that show.
We got to play on the show and we were meant to do 2 songs. We were going to start with Died in Your Arms, and then we were going to play the new single, which has been in love before. It was his birthday show, and he had David Letterman as a guest, and a couple of other people, and the show was running late. Oh. And we were coming out of an interval, out of a commercial break, as I think you say over there, and they were just about to pull the curtain back because it was all live, right? This is proper live television. There's no tapes, there was no playback. We had all the equipment there. And this guy puts his head around the corner. He says, "We're running late. You have to cut one song. We're going in 30 seconds." And it's like, what do we cut? Let's cut to Died in Your Arms because everyone's heard that. Let's concentrate on Being in Love Before. But for me, I had to change lots of things on the keyboards I wasn't expecting to do as the curtains were going back. The monitor mix was messed up. So we were all hearing the wrong things. It was technically, it was a challenge. But there's footage of it because my cousins who live in America filmed it and sent me the VHS. So there's some great black and white footage because of the difference between American VHS and English VHS. And when I transferred it, it came out black and white. But it's online, you can see it. And it's a fantastic performance, even though we were terrified. It sounded great.
I'm surprised David Letterman and Johnny Carson didn't make you do stupid human tricks or hold animals on stage.
Well, I don't think we'd have had time for that as well.
or maybe it's like, hey, you played the wrong one. You'll have to do a stupid human trick in order to get some more airtime. That's what it's known for in the States as well, too.
Exactly.
You also got involved later as well, too, with the Song for Europe, Perfect and Beautiful. And tell us about some of your other projects.
Well, I'm someone who loves challenges in life. And I'm also someone that looks at different opportunities that life brings when things change, right? So eventually I left Cutting Crew and started doing stuff on my own. But whenever you change direction in life, other opportunities arrive that wouldn't have been there if you'd not made that change. So I look for these opportunities and I enjoy the challenge of trying new and different things. So I've done so many different things. If you want to pick one and throw it to me, I will tell you what I remember of it and how it happened, or I can randomly pick something out of my jukebox brain of experience and give it to you.
Okay, something, I think we can probably throw something as well, too, that, tanzderyouth, I think, that has been covered yet as well, too. And then also, you're also a founder of the Kashmir Club as well, too. Right. And, a bit more.
Well, let's just jump back to the tanzderyouth thing, because this is also the Van Halen, Black Sabbath.
Yes,
story.
That's right. Okay, around that time. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're now into 1978. And Brian James was the guitarist with The Damned. So the two big punk bands that changed the face of music in Britain, and I guess it kind of rippled across the world, were the Sex Pistols and The Damned. And Brian had written the first two big hits of The Damned. So if you know your punk history, you'll know things like Neat, Neat, Neat and New Rose. And he left The Damned and formed a new band called tanzderyouth, and I was the keyboard player in the band. Mm-hmm. And we were managed by some really cool managers who were involved in the music industry in a way I'd never been involved before. And I felt this was a really good move for me. And I was having a great time. And as I said, we did shows opening for the Stranglers, but we also opened for Black Sabbath. And this was the last tour in 1978 before Ozzy left the band. So it was a pretty crazy tour. And before we started, the tour was already running. Okay, so they were already out doing shows, and the support band was Van Halen.
Oh my gosh! Right? How do you like that?
And Van Halen, it depends on whose story you're listening to. I can't tell you the truth of this. I can only say what I remember being talked at the time.
That's
Van
fine.
Halen left the tour to come back to America, primarily because actually their career was starting to take off really quickly in America on American radio. But I think also they were young and incredible, and Black Sabbath at that point maybe were feeling that the support band was getting more attention than them, possibly. I don't know. But so they left the tour, but everybody who'd bought a ticket for that tour thought they were going to see Van Halen and Black Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
But what they got to see halfway through the tour was Black Sabbath and tanzderyouth, because we took over the tour from Van Halen.
Uh-huh.
Now, of course, tanzderyouth had a history of coming from punk, and Black Sabbath, of course, is heavy rock. And in those days, those two music genres did not mix.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you can go and see a festival and you can see Green Day or a modern punk band and Metallica. And
yes, I was going to say
bill.
Metallica. We think alike.
Yes, exactly. And you'd see them on the same bill and it'd be no problem, right? It's just great music. But back then, it was very divisive. So the very first date we did was the the Birmingham Odeon, which was the hometown gig for Black Sabbath. And we came out on stage and the audience screamed at the tops of their voices, threw things at the stage, told us to F off. It was quite an experience, I have to tell you. I didn't expect that at all. And I thought, but guys, we're not that bad.
Oh my gosh. I think somebody said they cowbell on that one. I just can't get over that. Oh my gosh. And of course, and the rest is history as well too. And
Yes.
oh my gosh. Okay. And then you had to open with the Stranglers, and then also jumping over as well too. You later did some other things. You also jumped over to finding the Kashmir Club, which showcased live music in London, and going from playing for the people in London to hosting it. So tell us more about that.
Well, that was partly a very selfish thing for me to do, because in 1996 there were very, very few places in London that you could be a singer-songwriter, which is what I am at heart.
Mm-hmm.
And all the venues wanted bands. They wanted bands like the Stone Roses or Oasis. This was the height of kind of indie Brit rock and Brit pop.
Mm-hmm.
So you just couldn't get a gig where it was nice and it sounded great and people came to listen. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to start my own night. Right? I'm going to start my own scene just for me and my friends who are great singer-songwriters. So I found a venue. I had lots of friends in the pro audio industry, companies like Soundcraft and Shure Microphones and all these companies that over the years I'd done work with or been sponsored by, or done demonstrations of their equipment or written about them. And they all came to the party and gave me equipment to make it sound great. They supported me.
Nice.
And so I started booking singer-songwriters that I thought were great. And what I thought might last a couple of months went from one night a week to over 6 years, 6 nights a week. The demand was incredible. And I was finding people like Damien Rice when he was doing his very first gigs in the UK, Katie Tunstall, who was playing keyboards and flute in a band, Imogen Heap. Just a ton of people, and really well-known artists would drop in and sometimes do a show. Like Sheryl Crow did a performance there, and this was all for free in a tiny 100-seater capacity venue in a basement in the middle of London. But it really was a scene at the time, because no one else was doing it really, and it kind of launched many, many acoustic artists' careers, which has kind of fed into the whole acoustic environment.
Mm-hmm.
So
it kind of reminded me of back in the day where it's like MTV started doing Unplugged, and it's somewhere along the lines, and just flowed to the United States and everything else. But of course, back then it's like, why play for free? But it turns out that of course, guys like Fleetwood Mac, also Sheryl Crow, maybe come in just to get their energy out, or just fine tune some songs, or maybe just drop in something brand new to see how they like it. It's like you're free to experiment.
Yeah, it's true. Very true, Mike.
Right. And you also jumped over from running and hosting the Kashmir Club. You also became overnight host of BBC London back in 2004 and host of Let's Talk Music in Malta in 2008. And you being a host, it's like, that was a very enjoyable experience for you.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that as I think about these things, I realize that I just like to say yes, and the kids these days have a phrase for it. They call it FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. And although that's like a thing on TikTok and Snapchat, the FOMO thing, that's always been a thing, right? I think, that's not like a modern thing. People have always had a fear of missing out on things.
Exactly right. It's like you never know when you get that opportunity again. I'm the same way. Yeah. It's like you say yes because you never know. It might be the big thing. And if it fails, you say, hey, I tried.
Exactly. And it's fun to challenge yourself and see what you can do. Now, my background in magic and me hosting the Kashmir Club gave me quite a strong foundation in being able to talk to complete strangers and have something to say all the time, because that in some areas of my life had been the only way I could make a living, right? If I'm selling magic tricks to people, I have to be able to stop complete strangers, entertain them, and then make them buy something that they don't want, don't need, and will never use again, and make them really happy to do it, right? And that taught me a lot about the psychology of being able to, public speaking and engaging with people. So I was contacted in 2004 by Jo Good, who was a radio presenter on BBC London. She just started a new show, and she said, I want you to come and do an overnight show with me, and we talk about music. And everyone I know who talks about music, they say, Tony from the Bedfordshire, come on, should be part of your show for this because he knows all about the music. So that began a 4-year run of every Tuesday night from midnight till 4 a.m, not only talking about new music and playing new music, but bringing artists in. And very often they'd been playing in my venue that night. And we finish the show and we go for something to eat and have a cup of coffee. And then we go to the radio studio and they play sessions. And again, so I'd have people like Paolo Nutini would come in and do a session before he was famous, and all kinds of people. And it was another great education, right, Mike? As you know, you've done so much. You've had such a long and eclectic career.
And overnight host. I've been there, done that. So it's like I can relate to these stories. And another off conversation topic too. Overnight host. I've done just about everything. And having a coffee and talking to you, it's midnight over there, and it reminds me of my days of overnights. Yes.
Do you know the funny thing about overnight radio, especially if you ever do a radio show where people can phone in, it's very strange, the people who phone in, right? Because when it's 3 o'clock in the morning, normal people are fast asleep, right? Because they got to get up for work.
Correct.
So you get a strange mix of people listening to show, people who are insomniacs, people who make sandwiches, right? And press them in the bags, ready, to the overnight job, and they're listening to the radio, and cab drivers, lots of cab drivers, right?
Yes, a lot of them. Truck drivers.
It's I find it quite a magical time to be doing something where you engage with people, because we all feel like we're doing, it's not naughty, but it's like we're in this funny little world that most people don't know about because they're fast asleep, I really enjoyed it a lot.
Right. And of course, you're not talking about mainstream. You talk about things that are alternative, people never talk about. And plus, you also got the third shift workers. You also got the police crew. You also got the fire crew, the paramedics, the hospital workers that have to work the third shift and, serve the public, protect, take care, and everything else. And it's like, it may seem lonely there, but that's like they also like little companions, and plus taking care of patients, they need that companionship. So overnight served as a companion to just about everything else.
Absolutely. And I think the other nice thing is that all the producers and the main people who ran the station, they're asleep as well. So you can kind of get away with stuff that you couldn't say and do in the day. Not as bad, but just stretching the envelope.
Unless you drop the F-bomb like 20 times, then they get a little suspicious. So,
well, you can't do that on the BBC.
I know, I'm kidding. But you also been like Let's Talk Music in Malta as well too, and back in 2008, and a bit about that too. If there's other radio appearances and TV and all that, you can feel free to drop in as well too.
Yeah, well, the Let's Talk Music thing was a really unusual adventure, right? So Malta, for those who might not know quite where it is, it's a very small but yet strategically important island in the Mediterranean below Sicily, not far from the coast of North Africa. It's kind of in a very key position. And there are more Maltese people living in Australia than in Malta itself. I think the population population is only about 400,000.
Wow.
So it's a tiny island, but it functions as functions as a complete country. It has everything, right? It has a government and a parliament and TV stations and radio stations. And, even though it's tiny, it has this massive infrastructure. Okay. And I was invited by someone who had this idea to do a show where we talk about music with guests from the industry. And we have an audience live audience where people can ask questions. It was very loosely based on a show that we have in the UK called Any Questions, where normally they have politicians answering questions to the general public about what's happening in the country. But this was about music. And so the plan was each week we would have a different subject and we would have guests that could talk about that subject. And so I was the host. It was a 1 hour live show. I used to commute. And I think it's about a 3 hour flight, 3.5 hours I used to commute every Wednesday night, fly out, would arrive in Malta at about 2 a.m, go to the hotel, check in, sleep, wake up at 9, have breakfast and a production meeting, go to the studio, get the set ready, do the show live in the evening, all go out for something to eat, go back to the hotel, wake up at 6 a.m, get the 8 o'clock flight back to London and be back in London by 10 o'clock Friday morning. Wow. I did that for the entire summer for like 3 months. But it was an amazing experience because this was live TV and I had no script. I had no auto cue and I had no voice in my ear telling me what to do. I had some stage managers who gave me a cue when to count down to a commercial break. But basically I was winging every single show. Mm-hmm. And that happened at a point in my career, like we've been discussing, where I'd had the experience of radio and magic and all these things where I was comfortable talking and when you're doing your job, you have a sense of where you can steer a conversation and how you can draw a story out here, or where you can land on a leading question there to reveal something in order to keep the show flowing, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the same on TV. I had 4 guests. I'd have musicians some weeks. I'd have producers, all kinds of people. And I learned, a lot about myself, right? Which is, It's now 8 o'clock and I'm live and we've got an hour to fill, so let's go, right? I used to play 2 songs in the show. I used to play 1 song at the very beginning, both to establish my credentials as a musician that knows what he's talking about, but also it was my show, right? I'm the host, so I'm going to promote that. And then I used to play a song somewhere towards the latter part of the show as well.
Wow, that is amazing. And of course, speaking of music, you've got your own as well, too. We'll talk about those. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Also brought to you by our official sponsor, The Mike Wagner Show, International War paperback and ebook. We'll be back with the multi-talented singer-songwriter from Bristol, England, Tony Moore, after this time out.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention The Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. It talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamoshenzea.com. Missing, available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Hey, this is Ray Powers, and boy, are you in luck. right place, right time. Tuned in to The Mike Wagner Show. You heard me.
We're back with the amazing singer-songwriter from the UK, Tony Moore, here on the Mike Wagner Show. Also musician, radio presenter, music promoter, and magician as well, too. And, speaking of music, you hosted music, you played some music. You also had some music yourself. You had Route 66, Save the Day, Maiden 77, Boom, What the Funk, and more. And tell us about some of those songs. You also got Rock Stars Don't Retire, On My Own, and I Believe in You. And we'll be talking about our upcoming as well.
Well, as you quite rightly point out, I've got a lot of material out there. So I've never stopped writing. I've never stopped recording. I've never stopped performing. But like many artists, right, my career is a sine wave of success and obscurity. so I've had some moments doing some amazing big tours all around the world. I've had moments where nobody knew who I was, and I hadn't got a clue what I was meant to be doing, but I was having fun, right? The most important thing that, I always want to share with people is enjoy the journey, right? Because you only get one journey, and this is it. And although the excitement and the fulfillment of having success in what you're trying to do is a really intoxicating and driving force, if you don't achieve that success, you shouldn't have put all of your hope into that you will enjoy it when you achieve it, right? And miss what's happening right under your feet as you're doing it. So I really live that philosophy. I write about that philosophy in music, and I talk about that philosophy in shows. But being in the moment for me is everything. Because it is for everyone, but very often we get sidetracked into thinking, oh, if only I could have a number one single, then I'd be happy. Or if only I had a big tour across America, that would make me satisfied. But the truth is, all of those things have their own challenges as well. And although there will be some satisfaction in it, there will be other challenges, and there'll be problems, and there'll be dramas. And at that point, there will also be other things you want to do. So, I continue to make and release music, and I've got some exciting projects. Some you might not be aware about because I haven't spoken much about them at the moment. They're kind of bubbling under. But with the music, I try and put out music every couple of months, and very often I'm writing it as I'm putting it out. I do like the energy of working with stream of consciousness. Write the song. The feedback from people is great. I play it live. People love it. I record it. I release it. Doesn't mean it's going to be a big hit, but actually that's not, the biggest pull. As I said, the most important thing is that it's out there. It exists. It has a life. So you can listen to it. Your listeners can listen to it. And the new single is something I'm very excited about. I'm very pleased with because I wrote it. The story is quite interesting. I wrote it in the at the end of 2019 for my mum, who started to develop quite bad dementia. And I wanted to write a song for her that was a very positive, upbeat song, that everything's going to be okay because I'm going to look after you and don't worry. So I wrote this song. It's called Let Your Heart Begin to Sing. And then through the lockdown, I used to play it to her all the time, and she used to love it. And she used to be a ballerina, as I told you. She's now bedridden, and the dementia is quite bad, but she loves music. And when she hears me play this song, she does arm and hand ballet to the song.
Oh, nice.
And when it gets to the very end of the song, she knows the end's coming, and her hands will go all the way down, and she puts on the very last beat of the song, right, in synchronized. So for her, it's a very healing thing that I'm able to do. And for me, it's a very special thing that I can do for my mum. So then a year ago, I thought, you know what, I'll record this and release it. So I recorded it. And then I got involved in another project called Awake, which I would like to talk about before we finish. And I never released it, but I did send it to some friends who are part of a big cafe network in the UK called Cafe Nero. So it's up there with Starbucks, and it's a big chain, hundreds and hundreds of outlets across the country, and they have an internal playlist of music, and they support a lot of new music, and so they put my song on the playlist.
Nice.
So for a year, it's been played, but only in Cafe Nero's. You can't hear it because it was never released properly. But after a while, I started getting emails from the head office of Cafe Nero.
Huh.
Because people were writing to Cafe Nero saying, "Dear Cafe Nero, I went into your Cafe Nero store in Glasgow, and it's 8 minutes past 6. I heard this song and I really liked it. So I tried to Shazam it, but I couldn't find it. So I listened to the words and I tried to Google the words and the lyrics, but I couldn't find them. And if I want to hear the song, I have to keep going back in at 8 minutes past 6 every night to listen to this song.
They want you to have more coffee. That's why.
Could you tell me who it is? So they would look through their logs and they go, that's Tony Moore's song. It's not released. That's why you can't find it. And then they'd forward the email to me and I would write back to the people. I say, thank you so much. Here's the story. My mum, here's the lyrics. And I'd send them an MP3 of the song. Nice. And they would all write back to me and they'd all say, you must release this. It's so kind of you to send it, but we'd love to support it and buy it. And so that's why I released it. So it came out on June the 4th, anyway, beginning of June. And it hasn't set the world on fire yet, which is fine. The video has been getting a lot of views, though, much more than any of my other videos. And the feedback has just been very beautiful because I think so many people identify with the message, identify with my situation in different ways, but they overlap. But also just, want to sing along. It's a catchy number.
It sounds very amazing too. And where can we find all your music at and all your projects at, Tony?
Right. So I'm all over social media. On Instagram, it's Tony Moore, TonyMoore. On my website is tonymooremusic.com, which is usually fairly updated. And there's usually a link tree that takes you through to everything else. Tony Moore Music on YouTube, which is where you'll go and see the video. And the video, I won't give too much away because when you see it, there's some funny things in it that I've been able to create. I do my own videos. I have some green screen in my front room, in the room I'm in right now. It's about 6 feet wide by about 8 feet high. And I've made a 42-minute movie in front of it using it.
Wow.
And I've made the last 4 or 5 videos all here in my front room and using kind of video editing and public domain footage and all kinds of sneaky tricks to be able to produce videos within my budget.
Oh, that's so amazing. And we're here with the amazing multi-talented Tony Moore, UK singer, songwriter, musician, radio presenter, music promoter here on the Mike Wagner Show. Tony, just a few more minutes. You've been fantastic. Love to have you back on. What else can we expect from you in 2022 and beyond?
I'm glad you asked that question, Mike, because the big project that I've been working on for a year, but not secretly, but kind of quietly to build it, is an album that I wrote and recorded in the space of 2 months in 2021, February, March. The album's called Awake, and it's a concept album because I thought the world needs a new concept album. And it's 17 tracks. And I also realized that to try and release a 17-track concept album that's a little bit about 2020, that's a little bit about my journey that we've been talking about in life, and it's a little bit about my mum and her dementia and our relationship. It's just pointless because I don't have the machinery to raise the public profile of the project enough to make it worthy of putting it out there yet. So I thought I would do it a different way. And I would create the live show that that's based on the album. Because the live show, I was also creating at the same time because I knew it had to be very visual. So on May the 18th, 2021, we did the first show for about 100 people. Lots of video, interactive stuff, costume changes. The show is between an hour and a half and 2 hours, depending on encores. And it's been running every month since. So we did 2 a month for the first 3 or 4 months. I think we're on show 20 or so at the moment.
Wow.
Every night it's a full house and it's word of mouth. I've had people come to every single show and people laugh. And at some moments people cry. And even me, if I look at the screen and I'm playing the piano in one of the songs at the wrong moment, it'll catch me, and I'll have a moment. I might find it hard to actually sing anything because I'm digging deep. It's very personal and it's very vulnerable, and I'm being very honest about me and my life and stuff around me. But because of that, it's quite a unique journey. So my big plan, eventually, there's a 4-year plan, and I'm a great believer in talking out loud about your plans because it helps to materialize them by making them real. And also, I don't want to look silly by not doing it, right? So
exactly.
My 4-year plan, there's a famous venue in London called the Roundhouse. It's a 3,000 capacity venue. So my first challenge is, how do I get it to there? Obviously, I can't do it all on my own. I need to find put the team together, which is what I'm doing now. But I've got proof of concept, right? You just come and see the show and you'll get it. If I can do the Roundhouse, then I could take it to the Royal Albert Hall, right? Because that's 5,000. If I can do 3,000, I must be able to do 5,000. And if I can do 5,000, I could probably take it to the O2, which is one of the biggest venues in the UK, which is about 18,000.
Beautiful.
And if
I heard beautiful.
Yes. And if I can do that, then I can take it to Las Vegas, and I can do a big installed, residency in Las Vegas, where I will then combine all the elements that I've started with on a real tight budget with the magic that I love in life, with the music and the spectacle of progressive rock, but with all the commerciality of the stuff that I'm doing. And it's quite a unique show. So that's my plan. So watch out. It's called Awake. You can see online, awakemusic.info will give you a little bit more information about it. But if you want to get the music, you have to come to the show. So the deal is, you come to the show, I will let you have a private link to the music. And when there's a sufficient groundswell of people who know about it and a team in place, then I will release the album properly.
We certainly are looking forward to it, Tony. It's going to be very amazing. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Well, I think Peter Gabriel, really. I think he, as a singer, as a performer, as a human spirit, as a supporter of all kinds of music from around the world, I think Peter Gabriel has really championed so many different things. And in my life, he's been a very important influence.
Certainly amazing as well, too, and one of the best. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Okay, I would say originate, innovate, don't deviate.
I love it.
So be original in what you do, be innovative in how you do it, and then just keep doing it, right? One of the best lessons that I've ever learned through my life is realizing that if you keep doing the thing that you love, stuff happens. And it might happen slowly, but suddenly it's like learning an instrument. At first, it takes forever. And if you give up at that point, you will never play it. But if you persevere, suddenly the things that were difficult to start with become easy and new opportunities open. So originate, innovate, don't deviate.
I love it. I'm going to keep that in my memory bank, Tony. Once again, multi-talented Tony Moore, UK singer, songwriter, musician, radio presenter, and music promoter here on the Mike Wagner Show. Tony, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot from you.
Thanks, Mike.
Looking forward to having you in soon. Make sure you keep us up to date, keep in touch, and tell us about your upcoming projects. Once again, what's your website? How do people contact you? And what can people purchase or check out your works? Okay, so you can find me on all social medias. If you look for Tony Moore on Instagram, Tony Moore Music on YouTube, tonymooremusic.com. On Spotify, I'm Tony Moore. I'm on Amazon, Tony Moore. If you Google Tony Moore, there's only a few of us, right? Well, there's quite a lot in the world, I'm sure. But I sometimes get people confuse me with Tony Moore, the graphic artist that was involved with the Walking Dead, or the Walking Dead 2, I think. Interestingly enough, on Twitter, I'm Tony Moore 1 and he's just Tony Moore. But on Instagram, I'm Tony Moore and he's Tony Moore 1. So we often get people sending us messages, and I'm sure he's getting people saying, "Loved your new single, Tony." He's go, "Well, I haven't released anything." And I get people saying, "Love your new comic, Tony." I go, "Oh, I don't like to disappoint them though." So it's okay. Play along and be a doppelganger. You could do that too.
There you go.
Once again, Tony, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you soon. Make sure you keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love to have you back. We wish all the best. And Tony, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
Thank you, man.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. You know, it talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamotionzea.com. Missing, available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Mike Wagner Show. Brought to you by international award-winning author Mia Mohsen-Zia of Missing. And powered by Sonic Web Studios. Be sure to join us again on over 40 podcast platforms. And of course on the MikeWagnerShow.com, HamiltonRadio.net, and Diamonds FM. Don't forget to support our program with a generous donation at the MikeWagnerShow.com. Thanks for listening.